So,
It
kind of what you
is.
just described gave me the question is, how far are typical employers behind this curve? Because this is a pretty I mean, it's been a super accelerated. For me, this feels
Yeah.
this idea, what you just described, is
Mhm.
very real, but it's also very accelerated. And
Yeah, COVID.
corporates don't move fast.
They
Culture
don't.
doesn't change easily.
Yeah. Quite honestly, COVID was a huge accelerator
Yeah,
of
for sure.
that. The pandemic was, well, again, there were some things, if you want to talk about operational things like work from home. Work
Hmm.
from home was slowly becoming a thing, but
Yeah.
COVID accelerated it. Mindfulness, bringing your whole self to work, when you talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, perhaps some things like that, those things were moving along fairly slowly, but COVID accelerated all of that
Mm,
because now, people who were working from home or may have had personal things come up.
yeah.
Maybe they're ill themselves, so they got a family member that's ill that they have to care for. Their situations change. Now the kids are at home because they're not at school. So
Yes.
now you're dealing with this employee and trying to balance getting them to work, realizing that they have their kids there in the same house that are probably fighting over the internet bandwidth because they need to go to school. And how do you balance that with that employee? Because that takes that employee's personal internet issue as a leader and puts it right up in your face. And you
Becomes a
have to deal
corporate
with
issue.
it.
Yeah, becomes a
Yeah, it
corporate
becomes a
issue.
corporate issue. And so it's not like, oh, just leave your personal problem at the door because that person's not in the office and their personal life is impacting their ability to work in perhaps the way the corporate entity expects. But you have to be able to deal with that. And I think one of the things that you said, corporate America moves pretty slow. Some of the rebound and some of the return to office initiatives that we've seen, in some cases they may be the right thing to do, and in some cases they may not. So I'm not going to pass judgment on any particular corporate strategy. But I think the fact that we see so many of them indicates that the old ways of thinking are still there. They're flexing and they're moving, but they're not gone by any
No.
stretch of the imagination. They're still there. There is still a lot of focus on, I need to be able to see my employees to understand that they're
Yeah.
working. I want them to be all in the same place so I can walk around and talk to all of them.
For me,
Um,
that's a huge one.
yeah, yeah. Management by walking around has great benefits. It
Yeah.
really does. You just have to find out a way to do it differently. If you have remote employees
Mm,
or hybrid employees,
mm,
how do you make that work? So,
that's a good point.
um, yeah, and there are a lot of jobs and a lot of organizations where having people together and being able to have that synergy of bouncing ideas off one another and things
Yeah.
like that is very important. So just like I don't think everyone has to be in an office all the time, I don't think that every job or every company sends everybody home all the time either. I don't
No.
think that necessarily works for all organizations, but the flexibility and being able to work with specific departments or jobs
Hmm.
or team members, employees, whatever that may be, is still going to be fairly slow. I think again we saw some acceleration of that, but I think what I'm seeing is it's gone back to kind of this snail's pace moving forward.
Yeah.
Will continue to move forward, but I don't think it's going to continue to move forward with the speed that it did.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, we made some leaps, right? We made some leaps.